Now, civil society organization Action Society is calling for the removal of the Western Cape Kannaland mayor and leader of the independent Civic organization of South Africa, otherwise known as ICOSA, Jeffrey Donson, and his deputy Werner Moshoa. Donson was convicted for raping a 15-year-old child in 2004. Now, initially sentenced to 5 years in prison, a successful appeal reduced it to a suspended sentence, paving the way for him to be re-elected in 2008. We have also reached out to Mayor Jeffrey Donson and have not yet received a response for him, so we could engage him in this conversation. We start off with a conversation that was held with the organization that says that it will form part of its broader campaign against gender-based violence. Let's listen back to the conversation that was had with the organization a bit earlier on today.
Important to say that both ICOSA, which is the party that he is standing for, and then also they are now in that specific municipality supported by the ANC, should be checking these types of people before they can go into office. So it should be a policy agreement or a type of policy within the organization itself. That's the first. But I think secondly, there are regulations within the IEC that should be screening these types of individuals before they get into those types of positions. I think the challenging part of this one is that he has been re-elected. So this isn't a case of him being new to office. He has been re-elected, which further clouds the whole decision that someone like that could have made it into office, and that even after a whole 3 or 4 years of serving, he can still be re-elected despite the background that we know of. So we've started consulting with our legal team. We actually started yesterday already, and we're in a process of just fine-combing all the different regulations, all the different legalities around this, so that we can really put forward an entire package of options that we want to take on, but we won't be leaving it there. I think it's crucial that we do take this further. It just absolutely makes no sense to have these people in office, and we must make a plan to have them removed. And it's also crucial that from our side we will continue campaigning regarding the GBV issue, and obviously this is going to form a major part of our further campaign, because this goes to show that up to now, many parts of government has just been giving us lip service, and we're not seeing results when they promise to be fighting gender-based violence in South Africa.
For more on this, I'm joined now by Mr. Gillion Bosman, a member of the Western Cape Provincial Legislature and DA constituency head in Kannaland. Mr. Bosman, thank you for your time today. So we're hearing now reaction from Action Society, the organization that is standing up and voicing their dissatisfaction with the appointment of the mayor and the deputy mayor in Kannaland, considering their convictions and criminal records. What is your standpoint as the Democratic Alliance? You are present in Kannaland municipality, and actually at some point the DA was in a coalition government with ICOSA.
Good afternoon, Tammy, and good afternoon to the viewers. The DA was never in a coalition with ICOSA. In the last term in 2016, the DA and the ANC had an agreement to operate the council, to keep ICOSA and to keep characters like Jeffrey Donson and the deputy ICOSA leader, Hiram Reuters, out of council. Because it is disgusting that someone who is a sexual predator and a sexual predator towards children gets to occupy the role of a municipal mayor, especially in a community like Kannaland. I think from a perspective of a political party, we condemn gender-based violence, and we do a lot of work to ensure that gender-based violence is not happening in our communities and that justice is brought to victims. And I think what for me is most disturbing is that the president of the ANC, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, has been supposedly leading the fight against gender-based violence, but it is his party that has actually put Jeffrey Donson in power as the mayor. And I was quite disappointed yesterday that the ANC Speaker of ICOSA, of Kannaland, sent out a press release defending the mayor. So it's quite sad to see that a party like the ANC has gone to such great lengths to support people like Donson to ensure that they remain in power, because the ANC ultimately is showing that they don't care for victims of gender-based violence, they only care for positions.
Actually, in 2006, there was a coalition between the DA and ICOSA. It didn't last very long. It collapsed in September 2007. But there is a pre-existing relationship there. What is your current standpoint? What are you, as the Democratic Alliance, going to say, looking at the results of this past 2021 election? There are 7 seats in the council. ICOSA's got 3. The ANC's got 2. The DA has 1. And Kannaland Independent Party has 1. What are you, as the quote-unquote, minority seat holders in that municipality, going to be doing over and above the lip service and over and above the condemnation?
I think one of the key things to remember is that what we continue to do in Kannaland is to create a safe space for victims of violence and to support communities. So our DA structures through our DA Women's Network is very active on the ground, making sure that we support victims of gender-based violence. We also, through the provincial government's court watching briefs, make sure that cases make it to conviction. And we're continually engaging with community organizations to ensure that programs are in place for victims of gender-based violence. And we've also committed to taking our role as an opposition very seriously. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Kannaland is currently one of the poorest municipalities in South Africa that is struggling, and the municipality is struggling because we are under the leadership of ICOSA and the ANC. And we know, besides being a convicted child rapist, Mr. Donson has also made sure that the municipality has been run into complete ruins. The Kannaland municipality does not have a budget that balances, and the municipality has an outstanding Eskom account as well. So we're making sure that service delivery happens, and we're making sure that the provincial government is also able to intervene where it can to support residents of Kannaland, and through our work on the district municipality, making sure that we pick up the pieces that has unfortunately been dropped by the current leadership.
Mr. Bosman, we'll be back with you in just a moment as we continue looking at the situation in Kannaland, a convicted rapist mayor for the second time round, and his deputy, a convicted fraudster. What are the other political parties in that municipality going to do about the situation, specifically as a drive and a lead up to the local government elections? There was a lot of talk of integrity, a lot of talk in making sure that parties serve the people and that the interests of the people are being taken care of. More on this in just a moment. Let's go back now to our conversation that we were having just before the break for the calls for the removal of the Western Cape Kannaland mayor. I'm still with Mr. Gillion Bosman, a member of the Western Cape provincial legislature and DA constituency head in Kannaland. Mr. Bosman, thank you once again for your time. I was asking you what you, as a Democratic Alliance, as well as the other parties that have seats in Kannaland municipality, what you plan to do and the actions that you plan to take over and above the verbal rebuttal of the mayorship position.
I think one of the core things that we're going to do is we're going to use our position in council to speak out against this atrocity of having a convicted child rapist in council. Because as you know, the mayor interacts with all citizens, and I think it would be dangerous to allow Mr. Donson near any children or any underage minors. We know that this is not just the mayor of the town that has been convicted, but also the deputy mayor earlier this year was convicted of fraud and corruption for defrauding the council. So I think it's important for us to use our role as opposition members in this council to highlight these and to make sure that we use the processes available at local government to ensure that the ethics and the rules of council are upheld. But what we also need to do is we need to ensure that we support the work that is being done by civil society like Action Society South Africa to mobilize community members against people like Jeffrey Donson, because I think what is important is that political parties need to take seriously the candidate selection process, and in the DA we make sure that we put the right candidates in place, people who are fit for purpose, but also people who have high regard amongst community members. And I think if ICOSA was a political party, it would have done the same thing. But what we need to do is we need to call out the hypocrisy of the ANC, and especially the ANC in the Western Cape, for actually supporting this coalition and for defending a child rapist as mayor in this town.
In 2016, the Democratic Alliance and the ANC formed a coalition to govern against ICOSA. That was a strategy that you two political parties had come up with. Is that not something that you can once again consider doing? I know on a national level, the Democratic Alliance has made it very clear that you are not wanting to work with the African National Congress. But in a situation like this, where the stakes are indeed very high, because there are issues of public safety as well, the issues of the integrity of council as well in hand, are these discussions that you've had beforehand with the African National Congress? Because if it was the ANC with 2 seats, yourselves the DA and 1, and Kannaland Independent Party with 1, together you have the majority seats over the 3 that ICOSA has.
Sammy, the ANC and the DA did work together, and the sole purpose of that cooperation was to ensure that good governance is brought to the municipality. But the ANC, unfortunately, midway through the agreement and through the term, jumped ship and formed a coalition with ICOSA because they were not happy with the financial recovery plan and for the municipality to actually conduct its business in a transparent manner. One of the reasons why the ANC and ICOSA wants to work together in this municipality is to push through a 700 million rand unsolicited bid from a company to supply electricity to Kannaland. So we're always open to engaging with the opposition, and we're always wanting to make decisions that are in the best interest of the people of Kannaland. But we have to really be honest that the type of ANC that we're dealing with in the Western Cape does not seem to have any values or principles that are guiding their decisions. They're only interested in positions. And what we're interested in Kannaland is clean governance. We're interested in accountable governance. And we're also very interested to bring those who have been convicted of corruption and those who are engaged in corruption in this municipality to book. As you know, the Hawks is currently investigating long-standing corruption in Kannaland. We also know that the Special Investigations Unit has been in Kannaland investigating for the last 2 years. And we're hoping that those cases will be sped up and convictions will be brought forward, because this municipality is actually in a very perilous state. So we're constantly in conversation with everybody, and we hope that the ANC makes the right decision and walks away from this coalition. But at the moment, the ANC has chosen to go into bed with a party of criminals.
We will try and get the African National Congress in Kannaland to hear their side of the story. I'd like you to expand on the allegations that you've made that ICOSA and the African National Congress are trying to put through a 700 million rand unsolicited bid for the supply of electricity. What proof do you have of that?
Well, we've got the council meetings, and this has also been something that has been presented to the provincial parliament, where both the national and the provincial treasury has come forward and said that this deal, the way the deal is structured, is not in the best interest of the municipality, because the municipality does not have the money for this deal. And also, this deal has been on the council agenda multiple times, and it's one of the reasons why the ANC decided to work with ICOSA instead of with the DA. In the final few months of the last term, the DA, when we still had 2 councillors in the council, we voted against this deal, and we will continue to watch to make sure that this deal does not make it onto the council agenda, because at the moment as it stands, it is not in the best interest of the community.
Beyond political parties, what role does the IEC have in ensuring the integrity and the caliber of the candidates that are put forward for governance? And is it really the role of the IEC, or do you believe it should fall under another portfolio, maybe COCTA?
I think the challenge is the Constitution says that unless someone has spent 12 months in prison, they are able to stand for a position in public office, and that person has not served a custodial sentence. And what we really need to look at is changing the laws that allows for this, because if someone has been convicted of something as serious as rape and as the rape of a minor, we really need to look at whether that person is fit to hold public office. So I think the first point of call is that we need to look at the legislation that allows criminals to stand, and that's the IEC can only enforce the law as it is. But we also need to make sure that political parties don't put candidates like this forward, because ultimately political parties are the ones who submit candidate lists.
If you could recap for us once again what the outcome was finally of Donson's charge. Yes, he was charged and found guilty of rape in 2008, and a rape that happened in 2004. How did he get off the hook, so to speak?
So he was initially sentenced to 5 years in prison, and when he appealed that sentence, his sentence was suspended, and he was put under house arrest as far as I understand it. So we need to look at sort of how that decision was also made, because when the deputy mayor was also sentenced earlier this year, he was also not given a custodial sentence and also a suspended sentence. So we need to sort of ask ourselves, why is it that a conviction of such a serious nature got a suspended sentence?
We'll leave it at that for this afternoon. Mr. Gillion Bosman, we thank you very much for your time there. He is member of the Western Cape Provincial Legislature as well as the DA Kannaland constituency head.